Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 12 of the Titanforge podcast. My name is Dratnos. Joining us again, back from the MDI, is Trell.
I'm back.
And Tettle's also back from casting the MDI this last weekend.
I wasn't really missing though, so.
We
also had the emergency type Titanforge podcast show too. So.
Yeah, we got that
emergency in all caps.
Emergency update for the good clickbait value. Which clickbait value is just something you gotta farm in this industry. That's
YouTube is what it is.
Yeah, you do what you gotta do. So speaking of doing what you gotta do, 4th place in the first West Cup is Trell. Congratulations! How was that experience for you?
It was great. That was exactly what we were trying to get, and we got it. And as soon as we got there, we were pretty tired, and we had one match left. We scuffed that match, but it was all good.
Not bad, yeah. There's definitely.
We could have gotten 3rd. It's possible. I think that's our new goal now. Is we've gotten 4th, and now we want to get 3rd. But we'll see how the next one goes.
Yeah, you guys. It looks like you need a 3rd and then a 2nd to get a BlizzCon berth.
Yeah, it's all back and forth. Like it could end up anyway because people could just not go to BlizzCon. Some team might drop out. Some team might lose a player. Like 40K is. I don't know what they're going to do for their substitute.
Right, because 40K is the team you're kind of most directly competing against for that slot, right?
Yeah, they're currently in 4th place overall for points. Our team, No Girls Allowed, is in 5th place, and the top 4 go to BlizzCon. So that's the challenge ahead of us.
Yeah, I mean,
and it all depends on where they land and where we land.
Yeah, and they did just do a substitute this week, so that their team has changed comp, so it could be an opportunity for you.
Mm-hmm.
Tettles, what was your thoughts from casting this MDI? Yeah?
I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting. I think it's like a major issue, the fact that gamer dads and Learn to Fly couldn't keep the points, whereas 40K literally keeps like all of their points, so...
Yeah, it's going to be a much better spot if we hit our points, but...
Yeah.
It's all good.
What are the rules on that? Would you have to have kept the same 5 people to keep your points?
Four
Four the same? Okay.
Because you can sub 1 in between each cup.
And between each season as well?
It's between each cup, right?
It's in between each season. You can have one. You can have 1 in between the season, and you can have 1 in between the cup.
Okay. And you guys were more than one person different from either Gamer Dads or Learn to Fly, right?
Yeah, there were 3 from Learn to Fly, Dilemma Dad, Edelweiss, and 2 from Gamer Dads, myself and Sastara.
I see. So yeah, pretty unfortunate that you couldn't keep your points. It seems like a good system would be like if you have 5 people from previous teams, that they should your new team should at least have as many points as the least amount that any one person had on the team.
Yeah, I think that'd be nice.
But I can see how it's hard for them to set up those rules around there, and it even though it feels a little unfairish or whatever, it's tough to design a rule set that accomplishes that.
Yeah, I think that's an issue without you having like a really large roster of people to be able to pull from. Mm-hmm. Because like if it's a larger roster thing, then it's like whatever, right? But
I do think it would be good for them to incentivize teams to like. I think that having a team like this, like No Girls Allowed, not have such a point disadvantage would probably be a good thing for the system. Anyways, it's neither here nor there. You guys are gonna make it anyway. You're gonna overcome the adversity and get that win. I mean, watching you guys play against the method teams and everything, it looked like you could have won some of those maps. Some of them were really close.
They were really close, especially our mother load.
Okay, I'm gonna let the listeners in on a little secret. That motherload run has caused the most like internal strife in this podcast that anything I've ever seen has.
Not internal strife. They shouldn't have done that. Like, dude, all right, whatever.
Tells and I argued a little bit. We're bros, so we're good.
But they're you guys. So your strategy was what? 3rd boss was the first boss you killed, and then you went to the 4th boss. No. So you went 3, 4, 1, 2 in bosses. What's your plan?
Okay. Well, our strategy was prepare for the closest matchup that we were gonna encounter, which was against Pain for Femme or 40K, whoever won their match against each other. So we prepared the most time for that, and then we also prepared one map of the map pool for Method EU versus us, and we had the 3rd map prepared in that matchup as well. So we didn't prepare the 2nd, which was Motherload. And Motherload, we just winged it. We ran in, we wiped, and then we made an on-the-fly decision to run to the last boss.
Okay.
Either way, the casters
there were some intermittent RP walking.
Yeah,
too.
when you say run to the last boss, it's in the loosest terms here.
Okay, I mean, we walked to the last boss. Yeah, some of it we died to the last boss.
Mm-hmm.
But it basically was that we were going to lose the match no matter what, and we chose to lose in that fashion. And some people liked it, and some people didn't.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, at the end of the day, the decision to not spend any time preparing Motherload, like it makes sense looking at your best chance of winning that tournament probably involved, you know, losing that Motherload map, but winning the one before and winning the third place map. So as soon as you lost that first map in that matchup, you're pretty toast. But it's like, okay, if you'd actually spent hours preparing Motherload, you would have been worse on the other maps that you needed more.
Yeah.
In the matchups that mattered more.
The way the MDI Cups go, there's 9 dungeons, and you have to have some of them really, really good depending on who you're playing. And it just makes more sense to not practice some of them. Like 1 or 2 you just leave out so that you can make 7 dungeons really good instead of 9 mediocre. And so if you have 9 mediocre dungeons, you could lose at any given point to any team, you know, you just never know. So
yeah, and looking at your bracket, like if you auto win in 7 of the matches and auto lose in 2 of them, you win the MDI, you win the cup, right? Like you have, depending on which 2 those are, if you pick the right 2 dungeons to not practice, looking at the bracket in advance, then it's kind of a feature of the whole not picking maps but having them be associated with each match on the bracket. So if instead maps were like pick banned or whatever, you would see a different meta evolve where you'd kind of need to have something on everywhere, because otherwise every team would just pick Motherload against you, right?
No, you just wouldn't practice. You would practice only 2. You'd practice the starting map. That's all you
It
practice.
would even be worse. Just
that was old MDI way, right?
Yeah, it was awful.
Okay.
It's hard to rectify that one. I mean, if we had more time, we'd just do all 9 maps probably and just make 7 better than the rest. That was just the decision we had to make. So
yeah, because if you had 500 hours, it would be worth putting at least 10 into each of the maps. But if you only have 20 hours, you don't like then you're not getting to the point where you've got serious diminishing returns on any practice yet. Okay, cool strategy. I'm really happy for, like, you know, even though that you know, the Motherload map ended up having this thing going on with it, like, still a fantastic result for you guys, 4th place. So congratulations for that.
Yeah. Thank you. And one more thing before we move on. Our shrine actually was really close in all seriousness, and we had a really good shrine route, which I'm proud of. We just had some minor mistakes and delayed our run by about 1:15, I think it was in the end. And otherwise, we would have won the match, and that would have been sick.
That would have been so cool. Yeah, the shrine. I mean, watching you guys, especially in the first half of shrine, you were just ahead. I was watching in chat, and like chat wasn't really picking up on this, but like Method E was losing to you for the first half of that shrine. It was insane.
Yeah. Our downfall was the one ritualist accidentally pulling with the enforcer by the second boss, and that ritualist parked there, and then we had to kill it because we needed Shadow Meld right after for the skip.
Plus, the cultist and Lord Stormsong pull was actually just like way slower than it needed to be. I felt like you guys were like standing there waiting for the mobs to be grouping on the boss.
That was our other mistake. That went a lot slower than it did consistently in practice. Like we got stunned when they came in. We just had poor positioning on that attempt. But otherwise, that boss was about the same speed as Method used. Like we went and compared. It was a pretty good pull.
Awesome. So yeah, our main topic this week, we'll discuss, you know, the post nerf meta a little bit. We'll talk about our thing where it's going to be mindset and communication in Mythic Plus, which is something that matters in both a live key setting and in an MDI setting. And there are some things from this that you can take into raid as well. Although there are differences between how you do this with 5 people and how you do this with 20 that we'll cover too. But first, let's quickly we want to shout out our Twitter real quick. Titanforge WoW at Titanforge WoW on Twitter. This is where every single week we're going to post our main topic at least a day in advance of when we record, and we'll have a spot there for questions where we can get you can ask us questions even if you don't watch our show live, and nobody can watch our show live for the next couple weeks until the MDI is done because we aren't able to record live while MDI is ongoing, because of course MDI is happening when we would usually record live.
I can't believe they would schedule an MDI over our podcast.
Yeah, it's just first they do the Crucible of Storms releasing at the same time as the MDI, then they do MDI at the same time as the Titanforge podcast. It's like they have just no finger on the pulse of the WoW community.
Stop these men.
Yeah.
We should start a Twitter war.
So yeah, that's it. We really, what we need you to do is just follow our Twitter so we can have some clout with which to attack the official WoW Twitter. But we
Wrong. I don't like this idea at all.
Yeah, so
Not gonna own this. Stop.
Okay. So yeah, that's our Twitter. Follow us there, and you can ask us questions. And we'll have some other maybe stuff to announce that you'll find out about on our Twitter and our next show, maybe. So stay tuned for those. But anyways, let's move on to. I guess there are just a couple more things that we want to talk about from the MDI this week, Trell. And I think one thing that we haven't yet talked about is your choice of tank. So you played the Brewmaster tank in a few maps, not all of them, but in a few of them. Why don't we talk a little bit about that? How did you feel that Brewmaster went?
So I started playing Brewmaster in a lot of the maps. Like the first time we'd step into the dungeon, we had a plan, a route, and I'd play Brew until we figured out that I couldn't, basically. Because if you're on your main class, it's just going to be better practice. Like I never die on Brew. I just am so used to it. But the problem is, Brawl Warrior is just objectively better in almost every scenario right now, and so eventually I would swap to Brawl Warrior during practice on every single map except for Waycrest. I played Brew on the Motherload just because it was, unprepared. And the other one was Siege because we hadn't spent too much time on it, and I didn't feel that Brawl Warrior would make a significant advantage on that map. Plus, having my own ring for Sanguine is good for practice efficiency. But the real map that I played Brew in was Waycrest, and it actually ended up being a pretty good pick, in my opinion. It was competitive. Brawl Warrior may have been slightly faster, but since we had started on Brew and spent so many hours on it, we might as well just keep our route. We had some good pulls with Brew where I would skystep and transcend 4 or 5 packs onto one spot instantly, so the pull got started really fast. Another was on the Lord and Lady Waycrest boss. We pulled the Matron Alma into the boss. I'm not sure how a Brawl Warrior would fare on that.
Was
I think
a sick pull.
Yeah,
it would be okay, but Brewmaster on that is really safe, so we did that with these.
Brawl Warrior I think is pretty safe there as well, just because of how strong Spell Reflect is against both Decaying Touch and Wasting Strike. Which
it would be good.
I think the fact that despite all the Spell Reflect value that is in Waycrest, because also like first boss Heartsbane Triad Spell Reflect adds a lot of damage too.
That is the big major delay.
Right.
That if I was Brawl Warrior, that boss would have been significantly faster.
I think though that with like the big pulls you're talking about with Brewmaster, like it did look about equally good as Brawl Warrior on that map. And of course you have to factor in the fact that you're a Brewmaster main, and this is the thing is like if tank balance is close, if class balance is close, you'll have people playing their main just because there's like a lot of value in being a Brewmaster main. So like if Brewmaster's just a little bit closer to Brawl Warrior than it is right now, you could probably just play it everywhere. And if all the healer specs were like Restitute could still be the best healer spec, but if you had it be only as much better than Brawl Warrior is better than Brewmaster right now, you would at least see the other specs being played by people who main the other specs, right?
Exactly.
Because
and that's why I would start on Brew, just in case I was able to play it. But like I started in a Taldazar and Toldagor on Brew, and shortly would have to switch just because of the sheer amount of damage I would take on the biggest mob pulls, where Brawl Warrior just literally takes no damage at all. So as soon as I swapped, those pulls were like twice as easy.
Yeah, Brawl Warrior's kind of in this state where Blood Death Knight was at the end of Legion, where it just requires close to zero healing, and that's just it's absurd actually how tanky they are. Especially one thing that we didn't really talk about is the MDI environment. You're neck level 65 with 3 essences, right? And those third essence, like it's a pretty big power level spike compared to what we have on live right now.
It is.
Although people are hitting that this week. Some people are.
Yeah, finally.
Yeah.
I'm 61. I'm not there yet.
I'm 62 and a half or so.
I'm getting there. I'm 63.8, so 65 within range. If I just spend a couple days in islands, I can get it this week. But
I'll take some tropical adventures later.
Yeah, we'll go on a nice little sailboat. Tettle,
I can tank.
You can tank. All right,
islands.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's make it happen. I need like 300 islands, and then I'm 65.
I'm
my!
Not
sure you want to
signing up for 300.
Okay,
islands.
no, but like. I need 300 islands, but it gets reduced every time I do an AP World quest, all that stuff. And the islands sometimes give you more AP because they give you a quest. So it's just, if I were to do it from right now, that would be 300, but in practice it'll be less.
Session. I don't know about 300.
Okay.
I'm not
I'll pencil you in for 300. Okay, so that was the MDI trial. Anything else you kind of noticed that you wanted to touch on from happenings or events at this MDI? From the player perspective?
It was a really good system this time. I like that they extended the time trial period to over the whole weekend as well, because having only Thursday and Friday to practice was miserable for people like me who worked half those days.
Mhm.
Then you have to like stay up all night Friday just about to try to squeeze in a little bit of practice, and then you would
Yeah,
also, actually the bigger part was that you can switch on and off practice mode.
right.
So in between your attempts, you can practice more and get more familiar with the polls again.
Yeah,
That is
the
huge.
old system
That
you
is
couldn't
such
do
a good
that.
change.
So it seems like I think that MDI from like a systems and tournament standpoint has been getting consistently better. From the first MDI to now, it's been upgrade after upgrade to that, and this continues that way. Now there have been some like the overall experience may have gotten a little bit worse from Legion to BFA just from class balancing issues. But outside of that, like, and maybe that just the viewer experience might have gotten worse for that reason. But the general like tournament structure, I think, is just getting better and better, and I think it's pretty close to. Like, I don't think I would change that much about it as it is right now. The cup structure and everything.
It's just because people want to see their class played.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and you know we can do a better job can be done that. Although Tettles, we did see Beast Mastery, Vengeance, Demon Hunter. We saw some of these specs seeing play here. As a caster, how was the MDI for you? And do you have any thoughts about all that stuff?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the analyst role, just getting up there, showing my X's and O's, doing my football MDT routes, and
that was actually really cool.
Stuff.
I love the MDT on stream there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that was fun. I feel like I need to. I feel like there's some ways to improve that, but I'm not entirely sure how yet. We'll get around.
We saw a character named MDT in town on the tournament realm.
Yeah, it was in the Mugambala.
Yeah. We saw it when we logged into our Horde characters, and we were like, what is that for? And eventually we connected the dots when we saw your MDT analysis on.
Yes, excellent.
I mean, you're looking for ways to improve this. I was thinking, you know how they do on sports shows, they have the like touch screen big TVs where they use their fingers to draw the map.
I'm not getting like a
I think you should pitch this. I think you should pitch this one. Yeah, it would be really cool. No, you just up there and you just draw the circles on MDT with your finger. Even though it doesn't make it any better than doing it with a mouse and keyboard or whatever, I think it looks cooler and more sportscasty.
I mean, I am a budget weatherman at the end of the day.
They do that for Dota. I think Purge does it for Dota. He has the whole touchscreen.
I mean, we don't have a telestrator. I don't know.
I'm just, I get it. I'm sure there's space in the budget. Get one lined up. I think that would be a real quality of life increase for me as a viewer, would be to see you up there, especially if they make it like a little bit too big and like a little bit too high, and you have to kind of like jump to do the top of the screen. That would make me really happy to watch.
Here you can see the bench the trail gets knocked onto and resets the boss and loses the match.
I circle it over and over and over.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to topic 2 of 3 for this week, which is the post-nerf metagame. Of course, if you didn't catch our emergency update, I don't know how you would do that given how, eye-catching of a title we had for it and everything. There has been a big nerf to Outlaw Rogue, in addition to some small buffs to Arms, DPS Death Knights, Destruction Warlocks, and Resto Shaman. But the big change for M+ meta really is that nerf to Outlaw Rogue. So I guess I'll Trell as an MDI who plays with many people who play with Rogue on your team. What do you guys think about changes to the Rogue spec played in both MDI and Live Keys?
I don't think it actually changes that much. I think the only thing you'll see different from a viewer perspective is that instead of 3 rogues, we're back to season 2, 2 rogues and a Windwalker, or maybe in some cases 1 rogue, Unholy DK, Windwalker. It's my quick and dirty of it.
Tettles, how about you?
I mean, that seems the most reasonable outcome. And at the end of the day, and like they could potentially play a different spec. I know there's like some Shrouded Suffocation assassination rogue with like a couple fan traits or something like that people are toying around with that actually does competitive damage. I mean, it does. Dratnos knows way more about rogue than I do, but apparently it does decent damage. So we may see them actually swap specs. Who's to say about that? I think Outlaw brings a lot of very nice things that Assassination doesn't, like basically the fact that they can vanish whenever the hell they want. It's pretty sick.
Yeah, vanish is really
Gouge,
good.
sick button. Between the Eyes being a rotational stun, for as troll as it can be, stunning mobs and sanguine, it can be pretty good for a lot of situations, as opposed to Kidney Shot, which is like it costs you all your combo points and doesn't really do that much damage. So maybe they'll swap to Assassination, but I think it's still likely to see them sticking on Outlaw. Dratnos, do you know
Yes.
anything about?
So as a rogue expert in quotes, I haven't played too much rogue in the past month, but I used to play a tremendous amount of rogue, and I expect to again once I'm done with progressing Ajar's Eternal Palace on my shaman. My perspective is that in the MDI, Outlaw is still going to be the dominant spec because of those factors that you talked about being good for Outlaw. Outlaw's also just got this like on-demand, immediate AoE damage that it brings. Like you don't need any ramp-up time. One big thing that Outlaw doesn't need and Assassination does need is re-stealths, like dropping combat.
Re-stealth.
So one thing that I think really hurts seeing Assassination in MDI is the fact that those re-stealths are so important for the spec. But also like Assassination does really good damage in this like 3 target it's fantastic on with Shroud of Suffocation. 5 target is pretty good on, but like when you're doing these like constant big 10 target pulls where stuff keeps getting added in, Assassination stops really shining at those unless you hurt your single target a lot and play a lot of the Echoing Blades traits.
Okay.
So Assassination I think is going to be a live key phenomenon, but I don't expect to see it too much in the MDI setting. Maybe you'll play one Assassination rogue under some circumstances in the MDI on certain maps, particularly like if you're looking for a slow from them for some reason. That's a nice thing the spec does bring is Crippling Poison for slows.
That is a good point. Crippling Poison's stupid ability. Yeah.
So that's like last MDI we played Assassination Outlaw in one dungeon for the slow.
I blame Dratnos for this meta.
We were actually the first team to be playing Triple Rogue.
Rogue.
Last season.
I blame Dratnos.
we pioneered Outlaw, and Assassination Outlaw. Yeah. Anyways, sorry about that, everybody. So I think that Assassination will be 0 to 10% of the rogues in MDI, but I would I think I would expect it to be maybe 60% of rogues in live keys.
All right.
So
what Morning is telling me though is that sub is the way of the future.
Oh no.
Yeah.
All these rogues want to play sub. We'll see if there's actually any sub rogues on the leaderboards for time trials this weekend.
There's what is it? Undead, Morning.
Dilemma.
So many rogues just adore subtlety, and basically no matter what, like, okay, you could just go to you could get these glasses that simulated being like one of these rogues, and if you put them on and you looked at any class balance changes, it would be like subtlety is now the spec to play in keys. Try to play subtlety in keys. Tell Trell about how subtlety is good. Talk to Trell about subtlety stuff for 20 minutes.
No, man, please no.
You get this thing where like the Always Sunny in Philadelphia meme where the guy just like frazzled out with the whiteboard behind him with all the lines connecting and just like six targets priority damage.
Like corny cop shows where like they're connecting the strings and like all strings lead to subtlety rogue being meta.
Yeah, that's
all
exactly
the rogue players love sub. Tank players hate sub because it means you always need a bunch of targets and they can't die. They have to stay alive and keep hitting the tank. And I don't think it's a play in BFA. Seriously, even if sub was buffed a little bit, I still don't think it would be good because then the healer doesn't get the DPS either.
I mean, it was good in season 1, right? Like that was it was really good.
Before it got nerfed pretty hard.
It got nerfed very hard
before the incident.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Everything changed when the Nerf Nation attacked.
Yeah, Azul came through with some pretty. Dude, I'm surprised that class didn't get like completely reworked coming into the expansion because like. I don't know if people just didn't realize that it was just like above and beyond the best spec in like Legion Mythic Plus, but let me just take these crabs into all these bosses on EOA. Let me just sit here and allow you to cleave down 10 targets. I literally jumped out of the arena in Nelth Lair to go get the Crocs to pull it on top of Ularog, so our rogue could
that's right. You wild charge out
the boss. Yeah, exactly. It's like weird shit like that you would actually do.
Yeah, I mean. I definitely think that if we could go back in time and go back a couple of years, we would be playing a lot more sub rogues until they nerfed it. Yeah.
But
exactly. I think they would rework it if they didn't have this thing where they didn't rework until expansions come out. But yeah,
I still think they need to balance the game, like smaller balance changes once a month. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, it's tough to figure out exactly how you balance subtlety
that would be good.
in a small way that doesn't have a rework involved. But
right. That class is broken by design.
Exactly, broken by design, I think is a good way to describe subtlety with just the way its abilities interact right now.
Okay, so circling back to some of the post-nerf meta stuff, I had some questions that I have for Trell, specifically because this is like more MDI focused stuff. So basically, does this change what tank or healer you end up bringing with the Outlaw Rogue changes? Because basically not running 3 of them will end up allowing you to either run like an Unholy Death Knight in one of your DPS slots, which could free up a healer. It could actually free up your healer to play something else except for Resto Druid. Fury Warrior plus Brewmaster Monk seems like it's also a little bit more of a viable option. I know people were talking about that prior to that. And then we've seen some Vengeance Demon Hunter play. I don't really know like what the deal is with Vengeance.
If you play Vengeance, can you like? Is there a spot for Fire Mage in MDI? Maybe. I mean, the problem with Fire Mage in MDI is you don't have the bracers, and that's a big part of their damage on live. But they still do a lot of damage with Lucid Dreams.
Playing a different tank class basically means you take a hit on the tank and you have to heal it more in short terms. And so if that's the case, you needed the 3rd DPS to be enabled to be like really overpowered. So Triple Rogue was pretty good because playing Brewmaster enables you to do Triple Rogue and they still keep their 5% buff. But with them being nerfed a little bit, I don't think it makes it even worse for Brewmaster. Fury Warrior is okay, but we tried it in several dungeons and it just did not perform as well as Outlaw Rogue. It might be better now in some cases, but I'm still not sure. But at the end of the day, I don't think other tanks are viable still. I think it's still going to be all Prot Warriors.
Fury being target capped at 5 is still, like, turns out even post reaping is just still a pretty big drawback in MDI setting.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. Maybe Arms? Arms got buffed?
No, I think Frost DK is the only one that's like
Frost DK, yeah. Frost DK is cool, yeah. I like that. I like the idea of a DK being Unholy or Frost depending on the dungeon. That's kind of an interesting idea.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Dude, what if we saw a Feral Druid?
Okay, we've come a long way here.
That'd be awesome.
They do good damage. They just don't have Outlaw Rogue utility.
I mean, I guess they have the B-Res as well. Maybe you can play like Feral Druid, Mistweaver, Outlaw Prot. Like,
hold on, I'm messaging Trell's teammates right now.
Well, because like you have the Mistweaver for the physical damage thing, right? And then you don't need to play the Windwalker for that, right? And you have the Feral Druid for the B-Res, so you don't need the Resto Druid for that, right? Like,
I like this idea.
There's a theory here that it's not the stupidest thing I've said in the past 5 minutes.
In theory, if classes were balanced, that would be a really good comp.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think one more thing on comps I wanted to think about is like live key pushing comps. I think you're going to see a lot fewer outlaws in those.
I think you only get 1 per in live keys now.
I'm kind of looking at like Assassination, Havoc, Fire as a comp that I think would be a good 3 DPS on live.
Oh, it would be good, yeah.
And then Prot Resto or Brewmaster Resto, however you want to do it there.
Yeah, Brewmaster's still really good on live.
Yeah, bring in the Moonkin too.
Yeah, Moonkin I think could certainly get in there too in maybe the Fire Mage spot, especially on some weeks. Like, I think one thing we haven't talked about actually is this week's affixes.
Oh yeah, we needed to talk about that. I'm glad that you say that.
Let's take a quick detour into topic 3 out of 4, which is this week's affixes: Necrotic Bursting, Tyrannical Beguiling.
Just hearing it makes my skin crawl.
Yeah, so Necrotic Bursting, for background, like the 3 of us, we've seen this before. This has been on Tournament Realm for like this has existed on Tournament Realm before, right?
Well, at least it's not fortified. I guess is our saving grace here.
Yeah.
It is a saving grace, although it still makes bosses hard too with Necrotic. So it's like
necrotic really tyrannical bosses, those hurt. And there's a lot of them against which you can't drop stacks. It's actually, I think Prot Warrior is one of the tanks that has a lot of trouble with that, especially against bosses. Like they might have to leap away and kite for a while to drop stacks. But there's some bosses against which you can't do that. Galv, Rawl the Gluttonous are kind of examples of that.
Bosses especially.
Rawl gives you passive resets on
when he does the tenderizes, so it's usually okay.
If the slimes aren't up, the slimes will screw it up. On higher keys, they live a little longer, and they totally screw it up every single overlap. But in MDI keys, they die instantly, so they'd be okay in 17s.
Yeah. Tyrannical Necrotic, Brewmaster actually extremely good at Tyrannical Necrotic. Yeah,
they are. In fact, I was really worried about this affix set because my only experience with it was playing Prot Warrior and it was just miserable. And I didn't have like a taunt DPS class to help me out or anything. It was just Prot Warrior and like double rogue or triple rogue, But now I played Brewmaster last night on these live affixes, and it was not that bad, to be honest. I think you have to be really, really experienced to handle it well, but Brewmaster's really good at it, so.
Yeah, Prot Paladin also very good at it. This affix combo extremely good. No troll for Prot Paladin. now that Bop removes necrotic, like you can just Bop cancel Bop, and all your necrotic goes away. You can bubble taunt, all your necrotic goes away, and you actually like your heals, your self heals. A lot of them are massive and overheal you by half your life bar anyway. So when you have like 20 stacks of necrotic, they will still top you all the way.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's a good week for prop paladins, brewmasters, and a rough week on live actually for the standard prop warrior comp, I would say. Although it still might be the best thing you could be doing. Actually, I think brewmaster is probably the best thing you could be doing on live this week.
I think brew actually is better than prop warrior this week.
I mean, brew
I'm
has
a little optimistic, but
like if we were just to look at the top time runs, actually, I bet we'd see just a ton of brewmaster. Let's do a quick little experiment.
I don't think anybody like plays brewmaster for pushing live is part of the problem. Though.
Well, Trance does. Yeah, the
Trance and Andy Brew have been pushing.
Oh yeah, no, Trance and Andy are both. Yeah, you're right.
So yeah, the front page
is anybody playing this week though? Like,
not so much this week. No, this week is definitely a week that it's just tough to push. But like last week, which is where most of the top 20 keys come from, we actually have more brewmasters on the front page here than any other spec. It's all Trance and Andy, but it's 10 brewmaster, 9 prop warrior, 1 prop paladin on the front page now.
All right, nerf.
Yeah, Nerf hasn't been playing. Didn't play last week.
Not Nerf. I'm just saying
Nerf brewmaster. Yeah,
Nerf brewmaster. Yeah.
Level 15 and up. Okay, yeah. So we're seeing prop warrior, prop paladin, and brewmaster being the 3
Nerf
specs that are represented quite a lot in 15s and higher.
Looks like if you filter for bursting necrotic, certain comp of brewmaster, resto druid mage, or I'm sorry, rogue mage.
Oh, hey, is that Trell Brew from famous MDI team No Girls Allowed?
Wait, your character's name on live is Trell Brew?
Yeah, it's always been Trell Brew.
I didn't know that. Okay, I don't know why I didn't know that.
Is that the top run though, having a protection paladin as the tank? Huh.
Yeah, look at that. That's a nice mix of tanks there.
Intriguing. Yeah, this actually, the tank balance looks pretty good here. We even got, is this Disc? Yeah, we got Disc and Holy Paladin also on the front page for this affix combo. Now it's early in the week yet. You know, there aren't too many runs yet. There's only a handful of 20s, some 19s.
And this is a little memey because a lot of people are just doing MDI practice as well. But
right.
Still fun to see.
But nonetheless, it's cool to see. I think that the call being that Brewmaster is the tank for this week, it actually looks like it over the top runs here. There's just a ton of Brewmaster happening. But again, on live, you're going to see a higher representation of Brewmaster than in MDI just because people are gearing their Brewmaster because it's the best raid tank. So that's this week's live affix combo. It is super rough though, and I don't think we really talked about why it's so rough. But like the thing with bursting necrotic, if for any listeners that just haven't played this affix or whatever, you're just you're a casual listener, you're listening to this show on your drive to work on Friday or whatever, and you're going to play some keys this weekend on Saturday and Sunday. Let me just prepare you for what's going to happen. All right, your tank is going to have 33 stacks of necrotic. They're not going to be healable. You're going to kill 4 of the 5 mobs in the pack, and they're going to take a 4 stack of bursting that is going to promise to do half their health or whatever. And they're unhealable and they're below half their health and they're just sitting there. It's like, you're just a dead person walking at that point. And there's yeah. So you
even if they use their 10-minute cooldown and whatever else.
Yeah.
Their 8-minute fortifying brew cooldown.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they can use their 5-minute bubble cooldown. They'll be fine. That's a really good one to use in that spot. Would recommend that one. Baby. Yep.
In fact, if they use their any kind of health increase cooldown, it just makes it worse because bursting
is percent health. Yeah. So that there are
metamorphoses, you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck, Blood Death Knight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just have to have the foresight. You have to know exactly how it's going to go and drop your stacks before everything dies. Be ready for bursting. Be far away from the mobs, and you have to drop your stacks several times in the bulls instead of just once or twice on normal necrotic weeks. It's just a whole different kind of game.
And stat priority changes for a lot of specs as well. There are a lot of tank specs that get parry from crit or dodge from crit or whatever. And so this is a good week to stack that crit for tanking specs, just because if you parry an extra 5% of attacks on mobs, that's 5%, or that's a lot less necrotic stacks and a lot more opportunity to just naturally reset on small and medium pull sizes. So that's a good way to regem, re-itemize for this week. For depending on your spec, just figure out what stat is the one that makes you avoid more attacks and stack that, and that'll help you on the tyrannical necrotic as well, because the bosses. Dropping stacks naturally on bosses, if that happens 4 times throughout the encounter instead of twice, you're going to be way easier to heal.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's our little piece of advice for this week. All right, let's move on to our big main topip this week, which is probably going to be about the same size as our other smaller topics. Thinking about it,
we needed an extra topic. That was whatever.
So mindset and communication. This is, I guess, Trell kind of quarterbacking this topic because as the MDI competitor currently, who's just been involved in forming this new team with a bunch of new people, and you've been talking a lot actually about the mindset and communication that's going on in this team.
Yeah, it's been a big part. It's always a big part of how well a team plays, how well they practice, and even just showing up to practice alone is a factor of mindset and communication. So first thing I want to touch on is every player has a different style of communicating with another and what they are like when stuff goes wrong, what they are like normally when stuff's going right. Everyone plays a little different, So it's important that a team of 5 people kind of have similar play styles or mindsets. They communicate well, speak the same language, obviously, the expectations need to be the same. The players have very different goals from one another. When all 5 people are going after the same goal, synergy is naturally higher, and you don't have to work so long and put in so many hours to gain that synergy. So just having it right off the bat is really important.
Yeah.
One example. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to hit on something. Like, this isn't just for Mythic Plus 2. That is also very important for Raid. Officers in your guild just like showing the expectations of what the guild is going to be doing, whether or not it's actually just like having a strong tier, or if you guys are shooting for like a specific ranking for the tier in terms of like where if you actually care about your WoW progress results or whatever else, or just like naturally just playing good, just having good expectations set from your leadership, whether it be through Mythic Plus, like if Trell is the leader of the team, basically, like if, as long as the whole entire team is on the exact same page, expectation wise and like goal wise, then they're also going to strive to do better. Like Trell was saying, that's also very important.
Yeah, and you can get these spots where people have misaligned goals, and it's just fundamentally not going to be possible for them to like if I'm trying to win the MDI and you're trying to like have fun practicing in these keys, like neither of us is wrong, but we're not gonna have a good time playing together because we have different expectations, right? So making sure you're playing with 5 people that want the same thing is vital whenever you're doing any kind of coordinated content, really in life, but in M Plus and in Raid too.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that you don't see on the outside of a team. Like you look at Method and A, and you're like, oh, they're just really good players. They know how to play their characters really well, and that's why they win. But no, it's a lot more than that. It's how well they communicate and how they practice and do all the stuff behind.
Yeah, and J.B selecting 4 other people who were going to play the game, who all had the same goals and priorities. That was a process that he went through, and I haven't talked to him about it, but I've heard some interviews of him talking about it, and that it was all designed to do this from the start. So it was not just like he didn't pick players based on skill, but it was like people who had the time to play the game and had the same goal, like would be able to commit for it as hard as he wanted to. I
mean, Nerf sacrificed a lot to be able to commit as much time and effort as he has been doing to do the MDI. So big shout out to that guy. That whole entire team being able to work together well is very impressive too. So
yeah, you could say he's sacrificed everything, and what have you given?
He's not playing Demon Hunter yet. Hold up.
True.
Yeah, Nerf quit his job and was obviously extremely successful after doing that by winning the MDI championship and all that in this last set of. But yeah, I'm really proud of him. We should get him on the show and talk about that sometime.
Yeah, I mean, every time I've been in a Discord channel with Nerf, he does bring up the podcast. Usually in some way to troll me, but
wait, he brings it up to troll you? What
it'll be like Trell or I will do something bad on a boss fight, and he'll be like, "Whoa, you guys should talk about that on the Titanforge podcast."
Yeah, he does do that a lot.
Oh no!
Anyway, getting back to the mindset and communication part. So the reason I wanted to bring this up was I had my own team, the Gamer Dads, last set of cups in the MDI in the spring season. We had some pretty good synergy. Several of us had played together for a while, but we had just really bad synergy with a couple of relationships between the players. Not like bad feelings toward another, but we just didn't play the same way. And on the current team I'm on now, it's just like a whole different world. Like all 5 players have the same mindset. Something goes wrong, the other 4 people that are still alive immediately fix it. Like someone does something and everyone else is on board with what they're doing instantly. And that's just like super important in live cup broadcasts because something always goes wrong, nobody ever has an exactly perfect map unless it's method in A or method U, like once bracket or something.
Mhm.
But so that won us a couple matches alone. Like our healer died on some bosses. We had stuff that got pulled when I was already tanking a boss and 2 packs at the same time, and someone pulled a crusher, and I was like, "Oh God, here we go!" And we did the pull fine.
Yeah, so this isn't the thing about having everybody being on the same mindset. This is about having everybody being on the right mindset. Which, if you're doing like MDI or if you're raiding seriously, it should be like as long as you are pulling the boss or doing the run, you're giving it 100% and you're like ready. You're not just gonna give up as soon as the first mistake happens, because most situations are salvageable after the first mistake happens, right?
Yeah,
Most
exactly.
most MDI map runs that win consist of some mistakes along the way, right? Like there are things that could have been better about the winning times as well. And if you're a team where you commit the first mistake and you give up from there, you're going to lose so often because of that, and things are going to all fall apart instead of trying to salvage the pull and everything. And that on live key pushing this happens too. There's a lot of wiggle room in most keys until you're getting to this like plus 22 level currently, I think. There's usually room for multiple mistakes per dungeon, and
Yeah, for sure.
a well-handled mistake probably costs you 10 or 15 seconds. You got a lot of that to give. Whereas a badly handled mistake where you wipe, now you're costing yourself minutes, and that's you can't recover from that more than once per dungeon, really.
I mean, communicating like why the mistakes are occurring or how to fix the mistake is also very important too, because like a lot of the preparation for raid and Mythic Plus comes like outside of the instances themselves. So talking with like your group mates, guild mates, teammates, whatever, about how to make the mistakes happen less frequently is a very important aspect of it, and like how to make stuff easier. Like if your healers can do something, like if your DPS can do something that makes your healer's life easier, like whenever they're using their health stones or when they're popping cooldowns or defenses or something like that, that's like a communication that has to be occurring between like your healer and your DPS. Or your tank is like, oh, maybe I should pull the mobs this way and then like transcend through the wall, and then they just get grouped up in the corridor, and so that they're completely stacked so that you're actually able to blow up the pack as quickly as possible. It's just like a bunch of like minor communication things that need to occur between the group mates too. And just how you approach communication and how it's facilitated is also critical for success.
Yeah, because I think you're touching on like it's important to identify things that went wrong and figure out how to not make them go wrong in future. But there are teams that like it's often a detriment to do this in the middle of the run while it's still going on, right? So like after each key, if you take the time after the key to go, okay, let's have a postmortem about what happened here, like what went wrong on that second boss, let's go back and let's figure out what happened there and like solve it now. Whereas if you try to do it when you're actually still doing the dungeon, like I think that can cause a lot of problems. Yeah, it'll cause you to make more mistakes during the run. It'll cause you to maybe figure out the wrong problem for what happened. And depending on the types of people you have in your group, people might get defensive, and
it can tilt people, especially if they feel like they're being called out, which is like it's a bad mindset to have, to get tilted especially if you're being called out, because a lot of the time people are saying something because they want it to improve and because they care, not because they believe that you're like trash and deserve to do bad things in life and deserve your career ruined over this minor mistake. Like it's very rarely like that. It's more the times like,
unless you go to the third boss first in Motherload, in which case
I never said that. Okay, anyways, continuing on.
But yeah,
it's true though. It's true.
It's a like there's two sides to it, right? Like as a person who makes a mistake, you should be as receptive to, like, you have a responsibility to try and be as not tilted as possible when people call you out. But when somebody else makes a mistake, you also have a responsibility to try not to tilt them, right? Like you should try.
You should try in a constructive way. Talk to them.
You should try and like be the best on both sides of this, right? You don't want to be the person who gets tilted, and you also don't want to be the person who tilts somebody else. And being as generous with other people, like, be nicer to them than you need people to be to you is a good rule. It
depends on your relationship as well, because there are some people that can be yelled at or will yell whenever they're upset.
Yeah, and there are some people who only respond to getting yelled at as well, like who only improve under those circumstances as well. But those groups can be tough environments to be in.
Those groups have to all be that way for that to work, though.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Dude, my team for MDI2 was like that, where it was like we would get into shouting matches sometimes, and it's just how the team was. Like we were fine. Like we were all fine at the end of it most of the time. But then like, of course, there was one person who was not okay with with like, he would yell at you, but then if you said something back, he would be like completely shut down very clearly. But like the rest of us were just kind of okay with it. It was just how the team ended up being. Like,
Yeah.
It wasn't an issue until it was an issue, and people's feelings got hurt. So you have to kind of tread carefully with that kind of thing.
Yeah, my thesis is that it's better to not be that team if you can avoid it, but it's fine if
I thought we were okay.
Yeah, if the team is that way, like if that's your team. But the problem with that is that like I think that often those teams will end with somebody with you know it not actually being okay, right? Like that is what happened to you, right? It's
Yes, correct. That is exactly what happened to me. He started like shitting on me, and then I said, no, we would have won this if you did X, Y, and Z. You're being stupid. And then he didn't come to play the next day. Like what?
Yeah. So
we should get a mashup of the Tettle sinking ship journey. That would be good.
Mm-hmm.
That's in a future episode.
A lore moment, yeah. And now you guys, so that was the sinking ship team. If anybody wasn't familiar with that,
I mean that's a little bit more insight into that. But okay, so but basically how our team dynamic ended up working out is that Idled was like he would yell, which is like fine. Like I didn't have any issues with it. And then Greg and Krenix were both okay with it too. I wouldn't. None of us really had issues, but then Bum would like scream at you and like belittle you, and then it was like it was a bit much. And then if you ever said anything to him, he would just like completely shut down. It was like kind of fucking stupid. So
it's interesting to hear.
We actually almost replaced him. For what it's worth, we actually almost replaced him on the team like 2 weeks before, but we decided that we're friends. Like, why would we replace him without talking to him? Like, if we want to replace him, we can talk to him about it. But like, I mean, clearly it was like the wrong move. He didn't care about us, but
it's hard to make that call though. It's super hard to make that call.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it is hard to make that call, especially since we put so much practice time in, and it's like, what? Yeah, I mean, it's like, oh, what do we just do? Just like fucking forfeit it? But I mean, we probably should have just like taken the risk, like in retrospect, and just like replaced him. But I mean, I'm not too upset about it. I don't think anybody else from that team is actually that upset about it. They don't dwell on it very much.
Yeah, and that kind of team, I wouldn't have had a good time on. Like my current team is the complete opposite. Everyone's positive. They're direct with each other. There's no passive aggressive. You get the word.
Yeah.
Everyone has the same kind of positive outlook, even when something goes wrong. If someone happens to argue with each other, one of us dissolves it instantly. We make a decision for them. You know, it's just a good environment. I'm really happy with it. I'm looking forward to practice tonight. Actually, can't wait to get back into.
Yeah. That's that's the best kind of team, is the one where you're excited for the next time you're gonna play together. Yeah. Okay. And let's see what's the next thing we've got here on mindset and communication. Drell.
That about wrapped it up. I wanted to share a couple of examples. Like,
perfect.
This doesn't just apply to MDI stuff. It also applies to pugging and live keys. Where if you're looking for players that you want to play with a lot, you want to look for certain qualities. So the things I look for are, one, what do they care about most? Is it their own damage? And that's always a bad sign to me. Is it the Radar IO score? Yeah, if they care about only their Radar IO score and their damage, that's like an X on that player name for me as a tank. If they care about keeping their tank alive and the success of the pull, that's a very good sign. People that communicate well and aren't passive aggressive, they're not silent the whole run. They communicate whenever they have something available to help the group, even if someone else doesn't realize or point out something that could be done better in a constructive way. Those are all good signs. And then also for the higher level stuff, like their schedule, when they're able to play, their general goals and ambitions for MDI. That's important for me, of course. But those are all just things you look for and the ways to form a like-minded group of people to play this game.
Yeah.
So a lot of that actually gets kind of cut down for raids specifically whenever you apply to guilds and you do like your guild interview. So not only does it go through just like for Mythic Plus, obviously there's like a lot of different stuff like that you just end up getting through experience. But for raid officer interviews, you get a lot of referrals for people from other people that are in the guild who have played with X player from time to time and know what they're like for a lot of stuff, especially whenever you do end up getting in the higher end, like everybody knows everybody kind of thing. So the pool ends up getting kind of diluted in that case. For Mythic Plus, though, there's no real like application process. You just kind of hey, I played with him once, invite him. Or, hey, we need a rogue. Yo, Dratnos is available. Oh, yeah, I like playing with Dratnos that one time. Invite that guy. Yeah. We'll
Yeah,
ask him.
exactly.
Why is this character on a shaman? Hang on a sec.
Wait. He's trying to bring his paladin to my key? What is this troll?
Okay, says Tuttles, who brought his trap
It says
demon
Tuttles.
hunter to my run most recently.
Okay, dude, I didn't. Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, man.
Brought his undergear demon hunter to our 18 temple we did yesterday.
Dude, I didn't feed on the first boss.
It was okay.
I'm so-
It was
Yeah,
I'm
fine.
so
no,
sorry.
it was totally fine. It was really fun actually. But yeah, you're right. Like this is the same as the process of like people applying to guilds. You're really trying to like identify the mindset of the people applying to your guild, and you want to make sure that it matches your mindset, and you want to make sure that it's not going to be one of these like. I don't know. The metric that people usually assume is the most important thing is like your Warcraft logs page and like how many hundreds are on that page. And sometimes you get these people applying to guilds.
It is, right?
That is important. It is. But sometimes you get people applying to guilds who have optimized only that, and like everything they do in raid is designed to get a good parse, and they are avoiding mechanics to the they're doing there are all kinds of bad things you can do that will help you get better parses.
So that's not his foot in the door stuff, though. Like,
Yeah.
the same with Raider IO score. It's just foot in the door stuff where it is required to kind of get into these groups or to get into these guilds. It's required to have it. Like, you can't just be bad damage.
Yeah,
right?
nobody with all gray
Yeah.
parses is going to be really considered for a slot here, but.
Yes.
We've had people with 99 average that we've looked into their logs and we look at their progression logs and we're just like, oh, okay. Every time this
Wait,
person got targeted
it's
by a
trolling.
bomb, they wiped. But every time they ended up killing the boss because this person got targeted by no mechanics, and they got to tunnel boss, which is what they did even if they were targeted by mechanics because they're just parsed. Like they
Yes.
all they cared about was
Yeah.
doing good damage. So we end up declining these logs and we get people who are so confused about it, or these applicants. But really, like doing good damage is an important thing to do, but there are a lot of spots where you need to not do good damage to help the good. Like this happens in Mythic Plus as well, right? Like knocking
Yeah.
back an enchanted emissary, for instance, is a job that will cause you to do very low damage on a pull.
It is a thankless job. So we actually have something in our show notes about anecdotal evidence about Dad literally talking about how he ended up dealing with an emissary. I mean, stuff like that is like a thankless job.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, it is like stuff that has to happen. It's like spam rooting the emissary of the tides. I don't fucking want to do that. Like, what? I'm gonna do it anyways, though, because it has to be done. Do you want to tell us about what Dad ended up doing?
Yeah, this is a good example of a team player. Like this was actually in a live key yesterday, I think, but it's just a solid example. So our healer's in a snap spot on the opposite side of a pack. The pack was here, where all the melee were, and Dad exits the pack as soon as the tide starts running in because he knows instantly that the healer's not going to be able to get to that mob, and pulls aggro off the tank and runs the tides the other direction. Because he just knew in half a second he could do that, and he was the only one that was going to be able to do that. Maybe the other two DPS could, but he knew he thought of it first, so he just did it. And I mean, obviously he's going to lose all of his damage on that pull, and it'll look worse at the end of the dungeon. But who cares if you did the pull correctly? You didn't lose any time, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Wiping.
So having the mindset in your head, like of being like you're looking at what's happening in the dungeon and you're trying to like you're thinking about, okay, what's going to cause us to wipe here? How am I going to stop us from wiping? Like if that is what's going through your head instead of like when are my damage cooldowns coming up and how am I going to do the most damage on this pull? Though, like ideally you're thinking about both those things, but the more important one, the one that like if you realize there's a way for you to save a pull, doing that even though it's going to cause you to do no damage is a really important characteristic of a player, and especially like making that decision in half a second. Where you just like the first thing you're thinking about is doing this job instead of doing good damage. That's vital. Now on the other hand, you can't do that too often. Like you don't need to. If you try to save a pull when it didn't need saving, obviously that's a bad thing to do. And if you do less damage because of that, you're going to hurt your chances of success. So
knowing when to do it is important too.
As with
like
all,
one of those,
yeah, you just have to do everything good basically.
yeah, it's just an advanced play level of something you notice in a player that you like.
Mm-hmm.
And his Twitch is twitch.tv/undadtb for players that don't know him. He's a good rogue player.
Yeah, good rogue player, and I think enhancement shaman is something that he's also going to be trying to force at some point soon. I've heard.
Why don't we just check that one off the list? I think that's gonna be a no from
Enhancement Shaman and Subtlety Rogue, I think, are his two big weaknesses that
His
are
claim to
always
fame.
are always going to try and trick him into playing them. So I would definitely watch that stream though for extremely high quality Rogue gameplay all the time. Yeah, awesome, good friend of the show. Right, I think that about does it for our main topics this week. Let's move in to our question and answer section. Let's see, we already kind of addressed this one earlier, so let's just jump right in with at It's Justin Fam, who asks, do you think we'll see any prop pally in the current meta? Maybe with one of the rogues switching to warrior? So I guess we already talked a little bit about this, but I think so. Yeah, I think prop pally is not in the MDI meta. The problem with prop pally in the MDI meta is you can't play Night Elf. So the only spot where you would play prop pally maybe safely is like Siege, where you could play it if you're Horde. But there's not, like, Siege isn't a particularly compelling prop pally dungeon anyway. So you're not, like, too happy about it there. Prop pally also
lost cause in MDI.
Yeah, if you're doing necrotic dungeons, like any of the necrotic runs where you would play dwarf warrior, you can play dwarf prop pally in those spots, and that'll be like that's also something you could do in certain necrotic circumstances. So
like a freehold or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Although freehold, the problem with free, like there were heroic leaps that warriors did that were skips in freehold.
So
I mean, you don't get best avoid
okay. You know what? Yeah, you're absolutely right on that. I didn't even think about that.
The warriors even have a leap.
Yeah, so that the freehold.
Shit.
But if you bring a warlock, you can warlock gate those spots. So
No, absolutely not. Nope, none of that.
Okay.
There's no warlocks.
But yeah, I think prop pally on live keys is absolutely something. I mean, it's something that I'm going to be trying to do. I'm going to try and push on prop pally this season. So yeah,
agreed. I think they're really strong on live.
One of the rogues switching to warrior is something that, like, having a warrior in the group for the better battle shout. It's not that important, I don't think. Like to go from battle shout scrolls to regular battle shout, I don't think you need a warrior in the group to play prop pally or anything. In your DPS slots, so you can just, the other DPS options also bring stuff.
Unfortunate rogue meta change doesn't really open this up. This is more of like a prop pally is still decent kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't think prop pally's gained or lost too much stock from the rogue changes or anything here.
Yeah.
Although it is good with Unholy. Like, prop pally has some good synergies with Unholy, where it's really good at these massive pulls, and you can bubble them and they'll be dead in the bubble. And the last defender.
That's a good point, because you don't have to actually move out, so you can just like stand there and eat it the whole entire time.
And the last defender talent makes you really effective at tanking 20 mobs at once if you can live it for a little while, and you've got big defensives for a little while. So
yeah, I mean, their issue is getting the mobs grouped up, I guess.
Yeah, that is true. But so if Unholy rises, maybe that's good news for prop pally as well.
Yeah, I think prop pally is pretty good though. I actually think all the tanks are in a spot where they're actually all playable on some degree. I initially thought Vengeance Demon Hunter was pretty trap, but I actually saw it played by Buff War Nerf Rogue from East this week. It's the team with Supreme and Tomboy and all of them on it. They were playing it in Underrot, and they were doing some just like ridiculously large pull with Sigil of Silence. I think they stopped doing that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the whole Kragmaw room, right, with Sigil of Silence.
Insane ass.
Yeah, this is the same theory where if everything dies to the Unholy Burst within a Sigil of Silence duration, it doesn't matter what else happened, right? It doesn't
matter. It doesn't matter what fucking tank you have, because as long as the pack goes smooth, then you make up so much time by having your inferior ass tank.
Every tank is tanky for 10 seconds. Like, every tank can be tanky for 10 seconds. That's not a problem that anybody has, is dying in their 10 seconds of most tankiness.
But they stopped doing that because triple Feral Blood Swarmer was less optimal than you would anticipate initially.
Yeah, turns out you really needed to alt-target the tanky person, like the rogue with cloak, and then you're fine. But
no, they lived every single time it targeted the DK. I don't know what it was.
AMS.
Anytime it targeted, anytime it targeted the rogue instantly died. I don't really know what to think.
Ooh. Yikes.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have 2 immunes.
Well,
and vanish.
The Bloodswarmers do some magic damage and some physical damage, so it's weird.
I mean, they also would also like insta kill the healer if they targeted.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that if 2 target you at once and they both immediately charge you, you're just dead in a global. Okay. Next question we got here from the Thorough Tank, who sent us a bunch of great questions and actually a bunch of good feedback on Discord. So thanks so much for all that. We will answer this question here and another one from them. Operation Mechagon M+ is coming soon. It's likely to be similar to Kara, the lower half being very open and the upper half being linear. That's a good observation. What are your initial feelings on how the dungeon is likely to work in M+? What affixes will be interesting? Which ones will be murderous? I think
Tyrannical upper Kara.
Tyrannical. Which one will be harder on Tyrannical? The lower Mechagon or upper Mechagon?
I mean, I
upper.
I kind of feel like upper.
It's hard to say.
I don't know. Lower has some annoying stuff in there.
Lower does have some annoying ass stuff, and especially I don't even know what that robot is that has the damage check. Like that could cost you some time if you're not able to actually get that burn.
If you're having to 3-phase that thing or 4-phase that thing where you have to go and drain the energy pylons, Oh
man, dude, no, the Gunker boss too, the big slime on Tyrannical. That guy's gonna take so long.
I actually really enjoyed Gunker. Yeah, the trash on Fortified could be rough.
That could be very rough.
The good news is I think the welding bots and stuff will be there, so you'll be able to maybe get those bot value.
Oh, the spark bots that give you bonus damage? There's no way, man.
You don't think they'll be in M+?
So?
I think they'll be there.
Weren't the books in Karazhan in M+? You could still go get them if you wanted, couldn't you?
I think so.
I want to say you can go upstairs and upper Kara and get them. But
they're in the bots are in set spawn locations. I don't know. I think that they're going to be part of the.
I'm trying to think. Were the books in upper Kara still? I think they were. I think you're right.
Yeah,
I think so.
The pages. I'm trying to remember.
No, I'm pretty sure they were because you could actually go into Mythic 0 and get the buffs and then start the key too if you wanted to do it that way.
Yeah, I remember doing that.
Holy shit! I forgot about that.
So even if they aren't in the Mythic Plus, you could do that for Mechagon as well. Probably get the boss and then start the key.
So, honestly, so you know what you're gonna do? You're gonna send your rogue off to go grab the one that he wants, and he's gonna yoink it and then come back.
Yeah, I would prefer if they remove it from the M+. Probably, I think it would be, but I expect it will be there. So I think we'll probably end up playing around that, and that'll be just
you naturally get them as you go. Honestly, if you just get 100% trash. Oh, this is just like theory crafting, but if you get 100% trash, I think you're gonna get.
You probably are gonna they're in set spawn, so you probably want to design your route to get you robots too, where the robot spawns are part of the plan as well. And
I mean, it's gonna be interesting. Overall, I think the junkyard, the outside area, is going to be pretty sick, just in general. Yeah. But I think that one's going to be pretty hard. Some of the trash, those Bork dogs, are real obnoxious.
Yeah.
So I would actually expect those to get kind of nerfed before it ends up turning into a Mythic Plus. I think the city, the city area, I think it's actually going to be pretty sick, but.
It's very linear, right? There's I'm
okay with it being linear because it's only boss, so you're just boss.
How are you gonna even what's enemy forces gonna be like in there? Is it just gonna be you have to kill everything, or is it gonna be okay, you have to shroud one pack? I don't know.
Would you be opposed to killing everything?
No, killing everything's fine. I'm fine with that.
I think it'll be just like upper Kara where there's 2 mobs you can skip and you just choose.
Okay.
Which ones they are.
Yeah. It's.
I'm more of a fan of open concept Mythic Plus dungeons in general, anyways. The Tall Desires, Freeholds, Lower Karazhan's, EOAs all hold a special place in my heart.
Yeah, Lower Mechagon looks like it's going to be exactly like that too. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It should be a fun Mythic Plus experience. Our next question from the same person. Now that we're 3 seasons deep in it, how do you feel about the concept of seasonal affixes compared to Legion, where only minor changes occurred throughout the expansion? I like seasonal affixes. I think that they are interesting. I think that they add something good to the game. I think Infested was the worst of the 3. I think Reaping was super awesome. I loved Reaping. I loved everything about Reaping. Maybe a little bit too easy, maybe. I've been enjoying the challenge of Beguiling, but honestly, Reaping was a fun puzzle to solve as well in a lot of spots. And that was a good time. So I guess my one sad point is that Reaping is gone. And I would like to see good seasonal affixes just become evergreen and get into the rotation. That would be cool.
I really liked Reaping. It was my favorite, but now that I've done Beguiling for a few weeks, I'm actually kind of liking it more than Reaping almost. It makes you be really creative with how you deal and how you pull around it, and you have complete freedom on where to go in dungeons and get your count. If it's something like a Talazar and Freehold.
Yeah, Reaping used to have this.
Count.
it kind of had this like stealth constraint where it was like, okay, you have to hit your 20% here, or you have to hit your 60% here, and that actually did kind of like remove options in a kind of sneaky, insidious way.
And sometimes with beguiling, it's like you get easier count because of the beguiling mobs and certain pulls. Sometimes it makes the pulls harder. Sometimes it's not really like much more of a challenge. And it's just, and so I like that. And also the ways you can pull the packs without aggroing the Tides emissaries or the Arcane emissaries or the Void in some cases, I guess. But like using Ring of Peace to knock it to the right and then pull the pack from the left side is really cool. And that you can just skip the emissary completely. That stuff is really fun for me.
I do think the pug experience and the 10 spam experience is probably quite a bit worse than it was with Reaping.
I was gonna say, like, what if you're not in a coordinated group, and like, what if you don't have like a rogue? Like,
yeah, I mean, I've done. I think the majority of my keys this season have been without a rogue. It's tough.
They're all doing the MDI.
Yeah, I mean, you notice the absence of rogues of all the rogue utility pretty often. But I think Rogue was pretty good in Reaping too. Like I think you'd probably notice it just about as often in most of these keys.
Yeah, but like the player experience got notably worse probably though.
Probably the experience of jamming 10s is, I don't know, it's harder.
Yeah. So my thoughts on like the seasonal fixes, like the seasonal fixes themselves are like fine. I think we just have too many layers of affixes. Is more or less my thought process on the whole thing. I think just like the tyrannical versus fortified, and then like the 4 level, then the 7 level, then the seasonal affix that changes week to week on top of it. And if you look at it piece by piece, it's all okay individually, but then whenever it just like kind of gets like smashed all together, it's like this is kind of a lot.
Yeah, delete tyrannical and fortified. Delete them.
I'm with you. I'm 100% with you.
Yeah, I actually agree with that too. There are a lot of layers to think about.
And yeah, I think it would be cool if we see if Reaping just replace teaming with Reaping, like get it out of here and give me Reaping instead of teaming. Like I'd be happy if they just took bad affixes and replaced them with good seasonal affixes, and then all this cool design work that goes into the seasonal affixes doesn't go away for good. But yeah, I think it would be cool as well.
Don't bring back Infested. Hold up. Don't bring back Infested.
Not Infested. No, Infested. You're is fine. That one can go to Affix Heaven and join Overflowing, and just
bring back Overflow. Just don't bring back Infested.
You know what the great thing about all 3 of these seasonal affixes is that you can shadow meld all of them.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to do one of the seasonal affixes, you just be a Night Elf.
Yep, it's the shadow meld issue is definitely exacerbated by the design of the seasonal affixes, and probably my guess is that all seasonal affixes are shadow meld's going to be good against, just because of the way that seasonal affixes are going to work.
Shadow meld's going to get deleted going in the next expansion 9.0. I'm calling it right now. Goodbye, Shadow Meld. It's going to get completely. Oh, dude, I bet it 100% gets completely reworked. I'm surprised it hasn't been reworked yet.
Yeah, I think it will be too.
I mean, they reworked Arcane Torrent. Arcane Torrent was also in last MDI, Arcane Torrent and Shadow Meld were both sick. Nobody played Night Elf though. Doesn't make Shadow Meld bad. Now we only see Night Elf because literally the Horde racials are garbage comparatively. Like at least we're seeing some dwarves.
Yeah, the second best racial in the game is Stoneform. Mm-hmm.
I mean, Stoneform is fine.
And the crit
Fireblood
from the crit from Dwarf, yeah.
Yeah, I mean Fireblood from what is it, Dark Iron Dwarf that gives you main stat whenever you end up dispelling stuff off. I mean, dude, like whatever, Dwarf racial and Arcane Torrent. I mean, if that's the level that we want racials to be in terms of strength, that's fine. If you want our old Arcane Torrent and Shadow Meld is the level of strength for racials, I'm also okay with it. But you can't just have like this wild imbalance for a whole expansion.
Yeah,
from like a competitive standpoint, like for like every other standpoint, it's like whatever. Like who really cares? But
I wish we could go back in time and see some comps with all Night Elves and Legion. And that would have been cool for bolstering dungeons.
We played Night Elf and Legion. Like we played it for an Elf layer for like the Scorpion pull. Like whenever you would reset the Scorpions and stuff. And it was played in like Blackrock Hold too. I mean, it was played. It just wasn't.
It wasn't sophisticated yet, though. You weren't melding on cooldown.
Hold on, you get your orc face on, and you sky step into the pull with the Blood Death Knight. Hold up, and he's breathing through his mouth the whole entire time. He hits his Gorfiend's grasp button. He's like, he grips all the mobs. All right, here we go. Vamp Blood into Dancing Rune Weapon. He's building threat, still breathing through his mouth. like grunting while he's doing it. And then he goes, all right, Windwalker Monk, come in hot. Windwalker Monk slides through, hits him with a fat leg sweep. They're stunned. Blood DK's standing there for a couple seconds. He's like, all right, hit me with the solar beam. Come in hot. All right, solar beaming. And then he's like, all right, yo, drop the Ursul's Vortex. I'm getting out of here. And then double Typhoon out of it. And then he walks away. The Ursul's Vortex grips them back, and then you hit them with a double Typhoon, and then the DK's gone. Or actually, no. Out of the solar beam, you would triple Arcane Torrent or 4 Arcane Torrent because that was sick too. Like it was like a weird thing that you had.
The meta then was way different. It's true.
It was like out of solar beam, 4 Arcane Torrents, and then you drop your Vortex, and the DK's piecing. It was like, whereas now, like, okay, your DK is gonna grunt and then get insta killed by the pack.
your DK just dies on their Vampiric Blood Global because they're still just dead to all the mob autos, yeah?
I mean, like, I don't know.
So different all of a sudden.
I mean,
hard to
there's
believe that was
more
only a year and a
strategy
half.
involved as opposed to, like, smorking your way through the dungeon.
Yeah.
I was okay with it. I thought it was fun. Like, I thought it was super fun to have, like, no pack took longer than, like, 30 or 40 seconds, which was, like, cool. I don't know. I didn't mind it.
Yeah.
It's a different game now. Now you got packs that take like 2 minutes, and you're like, oh, that was long.
Yeah. Anyways, that's going to do it for us this week here at the Titanforge podcast. Be sure to check out the MDI this weekend, where you'll see Tettles casting and Trell not competing because it is the East Cup this weekend. And then we'll be back next week. We've got maybe some exciting stuff to announce in the works, hopefully. So stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. Bye.